Hi, welcome to this tutorial about Inkscape. I'm going to show you how to use it to make simple figures. I'm going to show you how to use figures or plots from Python, how you can import them, how you can edit them. I'm going to show you some basic shortcuts, and I will show a figure that I made for my thesis, and we will recreate this figure, and along the way you will learn all the necessary tools you will need for basic figure making. Yeah. Alright, so here I have an example notebook where I made a simple plot. The important thing you need to do is when you have a plot, and you do fig.savefig, save it as an SVG. SVG stands for, let me check, Scalable Vector Graphics. You need to do that because otherwise you won't be able to edit the individual component of this plot. So don't save it as a PNG or a JPEG. Always save it as an SVG. Yeah. Alright, and then we're back in Inkscape where we can import the figure, or we can actually open the file itself here. I already have it open here. Yeah, so the one way you can do it is you can go to File, Open, and then navigate to where you stored the file and then open it. What you can also do is you can say Import, which is this little button, and then you can navigate to the file as well. Yeah, the difference is that if you want to include another SVG in an already existing one, then you would use import. Alright, so now we have this plot, and let's say we would want to adjust the axis such that we want to remove this 2 and 4 and this minus 0.5 until the 5, this minus 0.5 up until the 0.5. And let's say I also don't like this graph, I would like to change it such that it's like more like a horizontal curve here instead of an actual curve. Right now when we select it, it's still one object, which we don't want. We want it to be viewed as separate objects. What you need to do is right click, say ungroup, but I usually do Ctrl-Shift-G, just faster. I just do it a few times because you can ungroup it multiple times. Because for instance, if I ungroup it the first time, you will see that like then this entire axis is still one object, but I want like the individual values, and then I can actually even do it once again because the dashes are still connected to the number, so I can do this, but I actually want it back. This one I also want to ungroup. Okay, so now these values with the dashes we can remove by just selecting them. Gone, 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 gone. You can also actually do it faster. If you hold shift, you can select multiple things and then remove them. Alright, and let's say now that I want to adjust this graph. I don't like the graph, I want it to be more straight here, like a horizontal line. Then we can use this tool, edit paths by nodes. Really useful. You basically, let's just grab it here. Can I do? Oh no, I have to double click. Yeah, and then you see all the points that was drawn by Python basically, and these are all the points that were connected. So I want it to be more of a straight line. I'm gonna, by the way, turn off this snap tool. I will explain that later. Yeah, I can also here again select multiple of these things. Yeah, so let's say this is what I wanted to do. I'm satisfied with this. The point of this was just to show that you can edit this path. Now I'm going to show a figure that I made for my thesis, which is like this entire thing. But we're just going to focus on recreating this part, because I think that generally you use diagrams more often, and everything that comes to look with diagrams is quite useful to know. So yeah, we're gonna recreate this thing. Yeah, so let's start and recreate this. Okay, moving stuff around in Inkscape it also sometimes ruins things. I can't explain why. Just try and keep things in place, not like me, like how I did this now. Okay, so when you want to make these objects, this is still quite simple. You select the square tool and the circle tool. What you can do is press Control, and then it will keep a certain ratio. Then it's easier to like get it to a 1-to-1 ratio. Same for a square. You can see that these lines are already thicker. I don't want them to be this thick. So, and then we go on the right here, you have stroke style, and that's simply, we can adjust that with width. Now, I think this is fine. Now I'll quickly copy all of these with Control D, which is just copying them in the same place. And I will quickly skip this. Alright, so I copied these a bunch of times. Well, first we can already see, like, these are obviously not aligned nicely. That's what we're going to use the aligning tool for. It's really, really handy. So let's say the objects are like this. If I want these to be vertically aligned, I just select them all. I go to this icon, this align and distribute tool. Often you can use this tab where you usually use these two knobs, center on the vertical axis or center on the horizontal axis. In this case I want to center them on the vertical. However, as you can see, there's still uneven space in between the objects, vertically speaking. So very often I use the grid function, where you can describe the objects as if they're in a table. So this is 1 column and 3 rows, so I would do it like this, and then you can adjust these values such that they fit to your liking. So I'm gonna put these lower, let's say 20 in the Y. I like that. Okay, and now these, I have 6 rows here, and I want this Y to be a bit smaller. Yeah, wait, I can actually also show this. And these are just 2. Boom. I don't want these here. Alright, so now I still want to align them on the same height. Like this, the middle of this group of objects is here, and the middle of this one is here, and the middle of this one is here. You can do that by grouping these as their own type of object, and now I can select them all and do the same, but then with I view them as 3 columns and in 1 row. So let's see what this results in. Perfect. You see they're horizontally and vertically aligned. If I wouldn't group them, you can see what would happen. If I wouldn't group them and I would do this, then they would, like, something else would happen, you know. So then, like, if I would try 3, I don't think that it would even work. Okay, no, it would automatically change to 11. So you need to group them. However, they're nicely aligned now. Okay. Yeah, it's time to make the arrows. At first, when I started with Inkscape, I used this tool. You can literally just make arrows like this. This is this is not useful at all, because if I move things around, it doesn't move with it. So that's just not what I want. But there's a nifty tool called Create Diagram Connectors. And when you hover over an object, there appears like a tiny white square appears, and when you hover over it, it turns red. And then you can connect it to another object, and then when you move any of those objects around, the line moves with it. It is, for me personally, sometimes quite glitchy. So like one time I would hover over it, and then you see like the white square is not appearing, but as I'm moving away, it is appearing. So it can be a bit glitchy. So try to not rage while you make figures, but maybe it's only my case. Alright, so I made all the connectors here now. We want to make them just like these. So how do we do that? Well, first of all, they're all the exact same, these arrows, so you might as well just select them all at once, and then you can adapt all the arrows at the same time. You go to stroke and what's it called? Fill in stroke. This one is useful for everything that you do, also for text, which you will see in a bit. However, these ones are just black, but just more opaque. I know that because I made the figure. But yeah, so we're going to make this a bit more opaque. Oh yeah, I accidentally made a double one here. Yeah, so now they're all opaque. Okay, now how do we get the arrowheads on there? Well, you have markers here. So we just select the end marker to be an arrow. Oh yeah, perfectly. I messed up so that I can show you why I messed up. So all the diagram connectors I drew from left to right, except for these three, as you can notice. And because of that, they point in this direction because the marker is at the end of the line, and the end of this line was on the left. So I turned them around, and now you can see the arrows are okay. Before they looked fine, however, they were not supposed to look fine. Because this is how it would look like if you try to do it, and as you can see, the arrowheads are pointing in the circle, and you don't want that, of course. You want them to be right on top. How do you do that? How do you change it? Well, if you go on the marker, there are way more options. I'm not sure if this also is visible to you guys, but there's more options here, including an offset on the x-axis, which is basically on the line that you drew itself. So I will put it on 4, and as you can see, they're all nicely pointed on the circles now. Great. Okay. Now we can go on making the text. So we select the text tool, we make a box, and we type the letter. You can see that it's already weird. This is what I meant with this fill-in stroke, how it's also used for text. You would think that the text is a stroke, but it's actually not. They are shapes. So you should set the stroke to no paint and fill to yes paint. And right now it's I need to select it again because it's still opaque. Oh wait, yeah, we want it to be opaque. Yeah, and it's bold, so let's make it bold. Ctrl B, boom. Alright, this is done. Let's make these other arrows. Alright, all the arrows are here now, and we want to bend them. Why do we want to bend them? Well, personally, in my case, as you can see, I had vectors or lines drawn from the left to the right and from the right to the left. And if you do them with connector diagrams, they will lay over each other and you won't see that they're pointing in both directions. And I really wanted them to be seen as two different arrows. So I wanted them to not lay over each other, thus I had to curve them. Curving can be done as follows. You select all the arrows again, you go to diagram connector, and then there's this field called curvature, very obvious. You fill in the max number, 100, and of course then it's not curved. It makes a lot of sense, but by trial and error I find out why, sort of. It will curve once you make it an orthogonal or polyline out of it. So I do this now, boom, it's curved. Done? No, we're not done, because they're obviously over these objects and I don't want that. So I'll select these objects and I'll go back to the diagram connector tool and I'll say make connectors avoid selected objects. So they avoid these. Great. Now they go over the circles, so I do the same thing for the circles. Go over them, avoid them. Perfect. Okay, the lines are not amazing. It's hard to reorder them in a nicer fashion, but yeah, it'll have to do. All right, then we still have the D. Let's do the D as well. D, and again, there's no stroke, only fill. The fill is supposed to be yellow. I want it to be the exact same yellow. I just use this tool. I click on this color. Boom, it's the same. Amazing. Still not bold though, so I make it bold. Perfect. Alright, while making the blue arrows, there is something that is worth mentioning. Right now it's not all too obvious. How do I select all the connectors once I created them and I wanted to change them all, because I will also, not on purpose, select the yellow vectors and other things. I'm not sure if I mentioned this already before, but with shift you can select multiple objects, and when you click exactly on them, then it won't take anything else. So I take here the first black line. I hope I have them all. But yeah, that's how you can select them all. Right now, then I go to stroke again. I make a nice blue color. See, I missed one. Then I just select it by holding shift again, and now it changes width. I think this is a nice color. Stroke style, boom, arrow, and they're all pointing to the left now because I drew the connectors from the right to the left, just to be clear about that. What else? We're almost there. Okay, we can do this text, like these text boxes. Okay, it's X color. Now, this is obviously, again, not what we want. The stroke and paint is the problem. Yet again, turn the stroke off, fill in the fill, and this, oh, okay, it's supposed to be black. Drag it all the way to this point, and all the text editing tools are basically above here, so I'll just select color and then say, okay, I want it to be subscript. Then I'll select red. Great. Okay, I do just realize that it is slightly too big, so I will select everything and then I'll just make it smaller. The problem, however, with text in Inkscape, it really doesn't want to corroborate at all. So like when you change, for instance, the font, I've noticed, you will, like everything that's in subscript will just not comply. So you have to redo that. And now I'll do the Control D trick again. Alright, and as you can see, they're still centered in these boxes. So we want to do that as well. Here we can use the align function nicely for, like not the grids, but really the align tab. What I use very often is this first selected. I don't know what it is on default with, I think, selection area. But when you do first selected, then it will move the objects that you've selected relatively to the first selected object. So for instance, in this case, I don't want the rectangle to move or the square to move because it's in its right place. I don't want that to move. So I select that one first, then I select the text, and then I say center on vertical axis and center on horizontal axis. Now it's perfectly in the middle and it didn't move the square at all. I'll do the same with this one. Perfect. Alright. Now we still need to do the R, the Y. Again, aligning tool, vertical, horizontal, boom. Yeah, align them again. This is pretty much it. Yeah, only these other things. Yeah, I already explained how to center them with the text. I will skip on the Y1 and the Y2. What if you have a node that has a recurrent connection? You can't do that with a diagram connection because if you go from one object, you cannot select the object itself. Then it doesn't do anything. Maybe there's a tool that does it for you. I haven't found it. If you find it, tell me. So you can, in this case, actually use this drawing pen, this one with the lines here, because it helps you draw like a more controlled line. You can do different kinds of lines if you want. Like this one, I would, yeah, I don't know what you would want to use it for. This one is also usually kind of not useful. I usually use this one because it can make nice curves with an easy, like you can easily control it. And this one makes nice straight angles, and this one is all perpendicular, as you can see. But in this case, I want to use this one. Wait, no, stop. Okay, future Duco here. what I said literally 10 seconds ago about not using this spiral path, this is actually perfect for making a recurrent arrow. So you just do this, like you play around with it a bit, and you make then you right click to make it an actual arrow. I give it this arrow. Now, this is great. However, I would like it to be attached on this side to the actual circle and not on this side. How can I do that? I already used this tool before when we were adapting the graph, but I can use it again. I take it and then I just put it on the circle. However, this is not ideal. I want it to be exactly on the circle, and it does look like it is on the circle right now, but there's a better way. You can turn on this snapping tool. It's kind of like a magnet from path to path. So you select this tool again so you can get the end, and then it will kind of pop onto the node. Yeah, okay, now I'm finally done. I hope you enjoyed the tutorial. I hope you learned something. If you don't know something, if you don't understand something, let me know. I'm not an expert on Inkscape, but basic things. I think I wanted to make this tutorial because there's a ton of tutorials on the internet, but they're all kind of specific on specific tools, and it's really annoying if you just want to make a diagram. There's not really simple how to make a diagram tutorial. So I hope you enjoyed it, and yeah, goodbye.